This aquascape has become one of my most prized possessions. Vibrance, energy, charm, and hope, because things that I hoped would grow grew times 10. I want to show you from scratch how I accomplished this. From bare bones to roots suspended in the water, stretching to the sky. My own personal showcase piece. Truly a focal point. It's magnificent and it demands attention. My tank is a 21.3 gallon long rimless aquarium. It's meant to be in a busy room, which gets frequented a lot. I wanted to leave as much space for the narrow walkway in front of the tank as possible. It's snug and tucked to the side, not heavy or menacing. I needed this tank presentable. So I purchased a stand made for this tank in a color that seamlessly matched the bamboo floors of the room. Without anything in the tank, it shimmers. All the possibilities of what could be suddenly pop into your mind, and you just want to put life into it. I wanted future guests to lean in and investigate and spend time learning about something that they never saw before, or something that they never even knew was possible. After researching for wood for sale online, I grabbed pencil and paper and I began to sketch ideas that I had. I saw slopes and plants and branches. I definitely wanted curvy branches stretching from one side to the other. I wanted wood above the waterline because I wanted to flirt with the idea of things growing above the water. And I decided to use Cerulean stone for its dark, sophisticated color. I wanted to place the Cerulean stone in a way that would allow rows for plants to be planted. To create depth, I wanted several inches of soil towards the back on an incline. And the curly wood would create twirls and twists within the water, leading the eye to an arc, which is the focal point within the focal point. A very pleasant sand path would be beneath this, surrounded by plants on both sides, a very welcoming and inviting path. So to begin, I put a thin layer of substrate at the bottom of the tank, and I like to think of it as nutrients under the soil. And I put some of this nutrient-based substrate in mesh bags. These mesh bags should hopefully support the rigidity of the slopes. It should decrease the chances of gravity slowly lowering my hills over time. Next were the stones. The striations in these stones should naturally go with one another. But on top of that, we want to allow space for the wood and rows for planting. I also use these heavy stones as an anchor for the driftwood, using crazy glue and cotton balls to connect them. It was really fun interweaving the branches with the stones while using the stones to form the beginnings of a jagged sand path. I rinsed and then poured in Colorado sand, but then I began to feel very uneasy. I made adjustments and the path was no longer screaming and shouting at me. I dialed it back and I was able to breathe easier. I decided to use accent stones to smoothen the transition between sand path and soil. These accent stones add details in ways that encourage viewers to look closer. They reduce stark contrasts and soften the appearance of the sand path, pleasing the eyes further and leading towards a more natural look, in my opinion. I hooked up the filter, the largest, most powerful filter that I could fit in the stand. I have a stainless steel outflow towards the back and a glass skimmer in the front. A huge plus is that the filter has adjustable flow and can hold a bunch of beneficial bacteria. The more the merrier. Now I have a huge list of plants that I intend on planting in very intentional places. The same way I thought about the transitions from soil to sand to stone is the same way I'm thinking about the transitions from green leaves to red to white. Shades and tones can be used to shift energies, tell stories. Transitions from thick stalks to stems to flowy and wavy greenery. I wanted a thick layer of Monte Carlo blanketing the bottom of the tank, so I gathered several pots of Monte Carlo. I planted Monte Carlo in the desired spots and misted the tank daily, using cling wrap to seal the tank, controlling the humidity. This takes patience, but over some time, you begin to see growth popping up. You begin to see actual roots stretching down and gripping the soil. After seeing this, I knew it was time to plant the other plants and finally flood the tank with water. I handpicked types of Bucephalandra, Anubias, and stem plants, along with some floating plants, along with mosses that attach themselves to wood, and even houseplants that grow above the water. With the base of Monte Carlo, I also wanted sharp tufts of dwarf hairgrass. Small clumps of Anubias Nana would poke out from the crevices. Bucephalandra purple mini is another plant that would do the same, but with a slight purple hue. Anubias Coffeefolia was also added, which makes me think of coffee, which I love. To complement my glowing arc, I chose plants with broad leaves and long stems so they can hover over the path, providing shade or shelter. I chose Anubias Congensis mini, which paired beautifully with Anubias Congensis broadleaf. Then Anubias Berteri and Anubias Butterfly joined the crew. The back wall would be an array of colorful stem plants. Ludwigia Super Red, equally planted on both corners. To add a hint of reddish, orangish, greenish, I added Ludwigia Red Skeleton. And to end the back wall, I added greenish yellow strands of Vallisneria Nana. Rosaefolia was planted right in front of Ludwigia's to give it that final pop. Lastly, 'tis the season because I chose Christmas moss to cling to the driftwood with hopes of it creeping upwards. Ultimately, I selected these back wall of plants with hopes that they'll prosper above the waterline, maybe cling or fall over the rim of the tank, or possibly even vining along the rim. With that being said, I finally flooded the tank. It was all looking good, except for one thing. I wanted a frosted background, and I had one. It concealed blemishes, hid cords, and helped create the illusion of depth. But this was a privacy film intended for showers and bathrooms. It worked, but it was also very dull. for the sake of sleeping peacefully, I drained the entire tank and I moved the entire stand. I reinstalled a proper foggy background. While I was behind the tank, I actually installed a light strip, which I can control via an app, and it allows me control the ambiance and the glow. So that's what you call two birds with one stone. I moved the tank back, I filled it with water, and it was perfect. Not only was the background brighter and more lively, but the light strip accentuated the contours of the glass. It highlighted the 45-degree angled edges, the glass clarity, and even the etched logo. This strip created a warm gradient, which made me want to utilize the focal point even more. The diatom algae phase of this tank really hit me hard, emotionally. Very quickly, the sand became brown, and some of my plants seemed to wither away. A silky layer of algae covered everything. The green and pristine tank I created completely changed, and I rolled with the punches. It was disheartening to see the tank this way, but this was a necessary phase. It's scary because you put in all this work to see it look good, and then it's just covered up. Eventually, my tests showed me things stabilized, and my aquarium was aquariuming. I began to add a variety of animals that could take advantage of the space while being peaceful with one another. I started with ram's horn snails and Bloody Mary shrimp. Seeing these slow snails explore every inch of the aquascape is a joy. And the Bloody Mary shrimp added magnificent pops of red along the green carpeting grass. I added a mono shrimp as well to help with the algae. I'm not sure why, but in the early stages of this tank, they all grew quite massive together, XL sizes. It impressed me, and I took it as a good sign for what's to come. As the tank matured, I slowly introduced fish and other animals. Rummy-nosed Rasbora added a shiny splash of red and blue with their metallic flashing bodies. 25 Chili Rasbora adorned the tank, swimming side to side in their school, and celestial pearl danios constantly twirled around each other, dancing and courting. These animals all bring their unique attitudes and behaviors. The ram's horn snails are never not eating, and they truly get into the corners that others can't. The Amano shrimp and Bloody Mary shrimp perch themselves along everything and enjoy eating everything I offer. The shrimp breed, and I've added plants like Süsswassertang as hiding spots for the babies. I've noticed baby fish in the filter, and therefore I added a breeding box to the side, which would be a safe place to raise all the babies. An air pump gives them a fresh supply of their parents' water. Though I do have one creature that's an oddball that's become so precious to me. My dwarf Mexican crayfish. She's the boss. This ain't my tank, it's hers. Let me explain why. I've watched her hunt. I've seen her climb to the very top of the branches and jump down onto the fish. Claws extended. I've seen her be successful at this. I repeat, I've seen this little tiny crayfish jump down from the branches onto schooling fish and capture it for eating purposes. She's fishing in my fish tank. I don't even get to fish in my fish tank. Then she will proceed to hide inside the territories that she's carved out for herself. She's the reason my sand path looks a little too natural right now. She trims the Monte Carlo to her liking, and she plays hide and seek all day. I think that she's incredibly intelligent, underestimated, robust with beautiful markings, and an absolute pleasure to observe. I introduced 2 red Tiger Lotus bulbs, which blossomed into stunning leaves and then vines that spread lily pads throughout the surface of the water. Oddly enough, my red Tiger Lotus on the left side of the tank only grew these big fleshy leaves, while my Tiger Lotus on the right grew leaves, vines, lilies, then melted and sprouted a new growth to the side. They are growing at different stages. Meanwhile, the super red Ludwigia that I thought would grow above the waterline didn't grow at all. I replaced it with Hydrocotyle leucocephala, which is still growing. So as you know, I had this burning desire to have a vining, climbing plant cradle the back rim of the aquarium. This comforting embrace of an emerged plant was something I couldn't get out of my mind. I tried Pothos Enjoy, a refreshing take on the common pothose houseplant. And it grew painfully slow. I stumbled upon this plant wandering Jew, and I thought to give it a try. After the Ludwigia failed and the pothose tried its best, it was worth a shot. It helps that this plant is ravishing, gorgeous. I used suction cups to hold up these 2 small clippings. This plant must love my water. This plant must love my light. In a week, these 2 clippings became 4. In a matter of months, these 2 clippings have used the suction cups as leverage to use my driftwood to propel themselves across and upwards, a thick mass of multicolored stems. Under the water, it pushes its stems and leaves, remaining strong and lively, its roots dangling freely in the water column. The stems reach upwards, pushing itself up against the warmth of the light, pushing past the light, reaching towards unlit heavens, so much so that the authorities at B within the household have had to trim it for obstructing the view of sacred family antiquities. Nobody expected this, at least not this fast. Not at this exponential rate. This is a plant I will never forget. To come to a conclusion, I made this video because I believe this tank is in its prime. I needed to document this, and it would be an injustice to this creation if nobody in the world of YouTube got to see this. I'm gonna get emotional. I am very proud. I set forth to make this for my personal joy and the joy of a family, and I think I did it. I got all the creatures that I wanted, and I learned about some new ones along the way. I fell in love with unspoken personalities and creepy crawly legs. And much like my plants, I've grown as well. This creation has been there on happy days and on sad days. It's always been there for me to take in and absorb and admire. And within these 4 pieces of glass, it's shown me the cycle of life. Birth happens here. Predator and prey happens here. Death happens here and feeds new life. I loved putting love into it. With the completion of this video, I'll feel more comfortable to tear the tank down because all good things come to an end. But with that comes new projects, new creations, and new discoveries. Thank you for subscribing, and everything you just saw was very cliffish. Peace.